I wish to illustrate a point with a mock advert for the mobile company O2. This isn't supposed to be a clever metaphor for the way that the film industry treats original thinking, though that applies, but rather an example of alternative advertising. There are infinite hundreds of combinations of images and text to create an original advert, and yet year on year romantic comedies produce adverts with fewer obvious signs of diversity than hillbillies with low standards. Like with any type of film, romantic comedies range from being very good to starring Jennifer Lopez, as I like to call her the alphabety celebrity because she's an A-list celebrity and yet a Z-list everything else. Good romantic comedies play with the formula and bounce new ideas and plot lines about the place, generating interesting and different character traits and situations, and the bad ones ask, what if Russell Brand had slightly more money? The current spate of awful-looking romantic comedies makes me wish that John Hughes had lived slightly longer, mostly because I wanted to see his unproduced screenplay, Jaws 3, People Zero. There are a lot of cliches with romantic comedies. Oh look, not all women are elegant and not all men are totally chivalrous. Validate yourself with semen, it's the only way to be worthy. Hey look, this spot of light is totally fucking with my continuity. Generally what bothers me is the self-centered and puerile behaviour, which seems to imply it's the only route to finding love. They often follow the storyline of the liar, i.e. someone who pretends to be someone else to get someone interested. Groundhog Day, one among hundreds of miserable examples. And even more painful is the concept of the one, which I'll explain in a later review. And I'm not saying that occasionally I don't like a bit of mindless fun. After all, I find that if I overanalyze things all the time, I eventually become angry, grow 1,000 times over, and go on a rampage in downtown Tokyo. Oh wait, no, that's Godzilla. Forgetting the fact that some romantic comedies promote shallow, self-centered, and puerile behaviour through displaying attractive people doing unreasonable things to each other, it's their advertising that I'm interested in at the moment. In the past 10 years, it seems that all romantic comedies have had a cut-and-print copy of pretty much the same posters over and over again, and every time I see them I feel a sigh emanate from deep within my soul. I live in a world where I'm surrounded by the same thing reprinted to look like a new thing. It's like the artistic equivalent of Soylent Green. But no, I'm calling them out on these cliches. The big one is the use of black, white and red lettering with two douchebags in the middle and some random element to make it look quirky, which they do with clockwork predictability. Here's a few examples that took me all of 10 minutes to look up.
Over and over and over and over and over, like a monkey with a miniature symbol. The joy of repetition really is in you. Under and under and under and under and under, a spell of repetition really is on you. And when it feels this way, I really am with you.
Why is it that almost all romantic comedies have the same 7 posters with the same 3 colours? Heck, black and white aren't even technically colours, they're both achromatics. Fnar, aren't I clever for looking that one up? But why this same thing over and over? Yes, they're very striking when combined with each other, it's why they were used for the Nazi flag. But there are other combinations you can use and be equally striking. I have a feeling that somewhere out there in the ether, there's been a poster by this description which has yielded unruly success in the face of a plot with the emotional depth and artistic range of a hungover Vince Vaughn. But the earliest example I can see of this poster style is Breakfast at Tiffany's, and that analogy certainly does not apply. Of course, with a technique this cliched, there needs to be smaller cliches hidden within them, like a Russian doll filled with athletes' foot scrapings, themselves big enough to have little scraplets of their own. So, cliché 1. Revenge of the Giant Face. The giant face is a ubiquitous advertising technique apparently designed to make you feel that the posters on the sides of buses are staring back at you. So much so that whenever I see a group of buses with the same advert, I like to pretend that I live in a totalitarian state ruled by Sarah Jessica Parker. So what's the problem other than the cliché? My big problem with the big heads is the cult of celebrity. Imagine someone tried to sell you a car, but all you could see is the outside, and the salesman won't tell you anything about it. Yeah, you can find out more by going online and researching, but this is their sales pitch, damn it. Can you imagine if someone did that? Oh wait, they did.
Well, it would certainly be very easy to mount on the ceiling.
But it looks like a trap for the Roadrunner! Like the Vavavoom advert, big face posters omit the rest of the plot from the picture, like the plot was friends with Stalin. If a poster doesn't tell a good story, then perhaps there isn't a good story to tell. Unlike the work of Drew Struzan, which carefully evokes questions like, what's all that about, without giving it away like the blurb gives away the first 3 chapters on the back of a book, these posters just say, look, these 2 people together. So what? They may try and give them different jobs, but a chicken in a top hat and a wristwatch is still a chicken in a top hat and a wristwatch.
You wear a disguise to look like human guys, but you're not a man, you're a chicken boo.
It's just extra fluff to put around the outside, and if all they can do is plug a celebrity, then the celebrity clearly is all they've got. It's lazy, it's tiresome, and it's just putting a bike pump to egos. Then there is the subgroup of the giant faces I like to call
Dilemma heads.
3 giant faces, but uh-oh, the one in the middle causes a
dilemma,
which ultimately brings them closer together, and these usually aren't even bad films. Personally, I thought that You, Me and Dupree was alright apart from the climax, which moved with all the shock and surprise of a lethargic glacier. Bridget Jones, oh why did I see this film? Possibly because of the impersonation of an erotic doll. How did they write Hugh Grant back into it as well? Yes, the dilemma head is off to the left, but it's almost omnipresent in its grinding irritation. The Accidental Husband movie poster was a direct rip-off of the above one, the notable difference being that this one was done in the hilarious way that makes Colin Firth look like he's trying to abduct Uma Thurman. Cliché 2, the leaning back pose! Here's another one which spread like ringworm. This one noticeably started with Pretty Woman, but now they all do it. Some of them even combine other clichés to create some metaphysical hyper-cliché which will usher in the new age of Cthulhu. Cliché 3, sit the f***ers down and make them whimsical. How come it is that a park bench is a sign of whimsical, smug, middle-class romance, rather than the urine-soaked hobo stations they are in reality? Cliché 4, the collage! Again, it's very hard to trace where this meme came from. It's on the Love Actually poster, and yeah, alright, it's a decent film. Plus it's got the operative from Serenity in it. And finally, with no further comments, Cliché 5, pick her up and make her whimsical. In conclusion, I don't know how else they could do it apart from, well, any other way. The criticism of the giant heads is by no means restricted to rom-coms, unless into that category you're also happy to put Thor, but surely there are other ways of advertising a film about 2 people's relationship with each other. With a rom-com, we know that things are always going to work out, and it's going to be predictable anyway, with a few notable exceptions. And I'm not expecting the same kind of gritty, nihilistic attitude that's generally applied to most action games, but they could at least shake the formula up a bit every now and then, and give the industry a much-needed breath of air.